The following is a presentation of Morning Drive Media.
From the southernmost point of dawn to the lands of always winter, and what is west of west, the shadows of the east. This is Casterly Talk. I'm Ken Napzok, episode 33 of the show that looks back at HBO's Game of Thrones, looks into A Song of Ice and Fire, and looks forward to The Longest Night, The Longer Night, Blood Moon. Let's hope we get an official title soon. Now let's hope we get to hear some news, and we got some prequel news today. You know, I was looking at some of the news, and we're talking about a potential casting, which could be of major import or could be of no import. We'll find out. But in reading some of the articles in the story we're about to talk about, it's a reminder that this is still in a pilot situation. We know the Game of Thrones pilot was famously reshot, and that doesn't happen often. A show with this much prep and this much anticipation, I could see it. If it goes horribly wrong, getting another shot, let's rework it, let's make this happen. But I also think, even though it's a new creative team, Jane Goldman and her team, along with George R. R. Martin behind the scenes, he's not a producer, not a director. He's not on the set, that type of guy. He might make an appearance, wave, that's it. But and make some decisions, don't get me wrong. But it's a different thing to be a producer. But Jane Goldman and her team, they are doing it their own way, no doubt. Probably keeping some of the aesthetic, the look, the feel of HBO's Game of Thrones, because they're connected. You want them to feel like the same, but I know they're doing it their own way. But this time around, they know what to do. Even though they might be trying to put their own stamp on it, you got to think, you're looking at the previous 8 seasons of the other show, you know there's going to be the comparisons. You know there needs to be some sort of connection. You need to feel in the same universe so you can see how they do it. Maybe get a better handle on it, which is why I'm not worried about this pilot. I think this is going to go off without a hitch, and we got a series, and HBO at this point, you know, it would have to be really bad. John from Cincinnati thud for it to not work. I'm looking forward to that. So let's dive into this news first, and then we'll take a call. And in the second half of the show after the break, we had a special guest talking about, well, one of her favorite characters and one of the better characters on the show that people love to root for and love to hate and love to love. CERSEI Lannister coming up on the other side of the break. But looking to a couple of websites, but we want to link back to our friends at Watchers on the Wall, Sue the Fury, making this report that Vikings actor Tad Murphy, he plays Arn. I don't watch Vikings. I know it's a very good show. I have a lot of people close to me who love it. I just never picked it up. I don't know how to say this name. Tadhg. Tad. He's not Tad Murphy. I'm not making fun of his name. I just struggle with any kind of name. I'm lucky I can say Jane Goldman. He's in an unspecified role. Now, this is a rumor. But his agency, the Suzanne Norris Agency, has his resume, his CV out, and that lists him as appearing in the HBO pilot episode of the Game of Thrones prequel, Blood Moon. Okay. Is that the title? I'm not convinced. It's Revenge of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi situation. I'm not convinced what's on my screen on HBO, or HBO makes the official announcement, of course. He also was in Black Sails on Stars, and it was a dying soldier in 2004's Alexander, according to these reports here about his resume. I'm not familiar with him here, but he has the look. You know, you look at the picture, especially on Vikings, and it's like, oh, yeah, he belongs in Westeros. Now, going a little further, and I'm reading from another site called Fansided, and they link back to a locations leak website. Yeah, that's right, and you can follow them on Twitter if you'd like. I don't, but I see the picture. So, we'll say this is light spoiler territory. We don't know the context. We don't know nothing beyond it, but if you don't want to know anything, I guess stop. But there's no plot. There's nothing in it. It's just a picture, a series of pictures of a set in Italy. It's the ocean. It's the water. And it is a boat. That's right, there's going to be a boat in Blood Moon. Do you like boats? Well, you're going to get a boat. It is, what's interesting, though, is it is the boat they think Murphy's on this boat, which is why it's relevant to this article. Picture was posted back on July 15th from Go T-Like Locations. If you like leaked set location pictures. It has a Stark banner on it, but slightly different, like an earlier version. They hadn't really finalized what they wanted the house sigil to look like, you know? And the boat is not a ship. It's definitely a boat. You only got about 3-4 people on it. You got some oars, no sails. And I'm not saying that's the only kind of water conveyance that's going to be in the show, but I like the look because it looks, I'll use the term primitive, early design, not as fancy. Not that I don't think you won't be seeing bigger ships, but it just makes me feel like, oh, this is thousands of years before the time period we know, and expecting to be seeing a lot more simpler things, simpler castles and forts and holdfasts and bridges and weapons and boats and ships. It syncs up in my mind there. Exciting stuff. I normally don't look at leak stuff, but it popped up, and it just seeing the sigil there and seeing the way everyone looks, it looks like we got some Starks, man, and I like that a lot. And this Murphy cat looks like he's got some Stark blood in him. The old gods and the new are roaming around his soul, so it syncs up. It fits, and that's kind of exciting, you think? Yeah, I like that a lot. So, what do you guys think? What's our anticipation level? Is it building for the prequel pilot? Blood Moon, whatever they want to call it. Blood Moon seems to be the one. As we talked about previously, I don't know if I'm completely sold on that, but a lot of times with names, I'm not sold on it until you know you see it in action, you watch it in action. Game of Thrones is just one of those perfect titles. That's the show. It is a Game of Thrones. Blood Moon, like we talked about, could it be a Twilight offshoot? We don't know, but that might be what they're going with, and I'm excited. I'm getting more excited as we start to look ahead and really look ahead. That's coming more here on Casterly Talk. We've been taking what ifs and calls and asking some good questions. We talked about King Drogo last week. Do you think Cal Drogo could have become King Drogo? If you still have some thoughts on that, call in through the Anchor app or Anchor and let us know, or use the hashtag Casterly Talk on Twitter. We do have a call today from our friend. I almost could call him a contributor at this point, Eric Monroe, and he's got a good question. It's a tough one for someone like me who loves seasons 7 and 8, probably more than other people, but I enjoy tough questions about these two seasons. Let's go with Eric right now.
Hey, Ken, Casterly Talk. So, one storyline that I really do feel would have benefited if Game of Thrones had more episodes than Season 8 and Season 7 is the Jon and Dany love story. And the reason I say this, you know, when you compare it to Jon and Ygritte, it's almost an unfair comparison because Jon and Ygritte had so much more time. Half of Season 2, all of Season 3 was about them falling in love. So when Jon in the Season 3 finale tells Ygritte he loves her, I really buy it. But with Jon and Dany, things just happened kind of fast. So when he's telling Dany, I love you, you're my queen, I give up my kingship, it just happened a little fast. So when he killed her, it was sad, but for me, it wasn't as sad as when Ygritte dies. I cried when Ygritte died. I didn't cry when Jon killed Dany. I cried when Drogon came in and saw his mother was dead. So what do you think? Do you think more time would have benefited Jon and Dany?
All right, Eric, that's a great question and a tough question. And I think it's what I like about it. It's more specific than just, the Season 7 and Season 8, it was rushed. It was rushed. Yeah, it was rushed. They were rushed. But I want some specifics. I don't think a lot of the things, the big battles and everything suffered at all. You get the tension. We've been here 8 years. We know the characters. We know the players. We know what's at stake. Let's get to it. I'm good with that. I don't need to see everyone walking around, conspiring and planning. We've done that. We've been there. I was happy with some of the speedier aspects of the final 2 seasons. But I also know you are rewarded. You get rewarded by spending time with these characters. And yeah, some of the arcs, some of the stories seem rushed. I keep going back to the Jorah one. I love Jorah, but he got healed. I'm happy he was healed. I like the way he went out. But, it was fast, and it didn't take away the impact. But it was like, okay, he's healed. That journey's over. So, yeah, time, a couple more episodes. I think that's fair to say. But I really like the look at the John and Danny, the love story, the impact of it. It did feel that they just kind of fell in love because they needed to. But here's the thing. My take on it is I think that was true for the characters too. Now, quick answer. Eric, yeah, you're right. 1 or 2 more episodes in either season. I think maybe more in season 7 than 8, where you really would have felt the connection. We felt the tension. I think all that worked. I think Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington really brought it, particularly in season 7. And by the way, I love the new series, Rose Leslie, who plays Ygritte, Jon Snow's real-life wife, Kit Harington's real-life wife, I should say, and Emilia Clarke took a little vacation together. Oh, the conversations I'm sure they had. Good times. Which is funny, because, they didn't really spend time together on the show, right? Yeah, no, Ygritte and Danny never really crossed paths, so that was just a social life thing connecting them. Fascinating. Imagine those two characters together, Ygritte and Danny, face to face. Ah, so you think you love my Johnny boy? Not that I always want to see female characters fighting against each other, but that would have been interesting. All right, back to the point at hand. Yeah, again, I look at season 7 for Danny and John. That's where the connection, maybe the turn could have happened. But I think it was based in circumstance. I think it was based in lust. I think it was based in truth. I think these characters felt these things for each other, but they're both characters that had great loves that they lost tragically. And that might cause them, I've not been in that situation, but that might cause them to speed up, to take a chance when normally they wouldn't. John hadn't really moved on post Ygritte. Danny did. We look at Dario. Jorah fans die hard. His door, and in the books, of course, that plays out a little different too, but we know she didn't love his door, and I'm sure she had some feelings and love for Dario, but clearly she knew he wasn't going to stick around. She had some uses for him. Good on you, Danny. But I believe the love between John and Danny. But you know what I mean? It's the next one. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. No? Okay. And they were pushed together. Their peacock feathers got pushed up. You're the king of the north. You're the mother of dragons and the heir to the Iron Throne. And then a mutual respect, and then a passion, and a connection. I believe it was real, but like a movie. That's the problem with some rom-coms, right? If they're good, you buy it. But you only have a few beats to sell that connection. That's why writing a 2-hour movie versus a long-form program is a lot different. And I think audiences want that more. We talk a lot in Star Wars about the new shows coming out and how it's weird for me to say, but I actually am more excited that Obi-Wan is a TV series, a Disney Plus series, than a movie. 2 hours, you got to get to it. And you got to use 1 or 2 lines, a scene, a look to say they're connected. And a lot of romantic comedies or movies where romance is at a key, it sometimes falls flat. It can become an inside joke. And I think that might be a little bit at play here because the show didn't have the time, didn't take the time, or just felt, hey, you get it. And though I get a lot of things, it didn't pay off. Ygritte's death was painful, powerful. You felt that. You had so many seasons, 2, 3, into 4, to fall for those characters yourself, to fall for the connection, to want them to return to the cave. Danny and Drogo, though, she only had 1 season, but the scenes mattered. I think if you look back, you don't spend as much time with them as you thought, but it's powerful, and it's new, and it's fresh to us as a story. And then she loses him. Danny and John, season 7, season 8, particularly, they try to show it with the dragon riding scene, giggling over dragons, going to a cave of their own, and it might have felt cheap. And I'm not saying it was intentional, but again, this is we as fans. I don't think we as fans were supposed to buy it. I don't think a lot of other people bought it. Tyrion was dubious, perhaps from his own intentions and desires, but dubious. Everyone was dubious. Even if they were on board, Davos, Brienne, at times there's some kind of, look at the young lovers, they hold the future, and everyone's wondering. No one wondered as fans with Dany and Drogo. No one wondered as fans with Ygritte and Jon. But with Jon and Dany, we were meant to wonder, and I think we feel that. So when they go to their own cave, I like that scene. I like that Drogon's staring at Jon. That's real life. Pets know. Pets are protective. Trust me. But when they go to their own cave, or, the hint is, hey, they're heading to their own cave, I didn't feel as powerful to me. It felt like, God, Jon, you've already been in a cave, and the situation was better. Would more time have fixed that? Maybe. But I don't know if we were supposed to buy into it as much. I would have liked to seen a little bit more, and that's why, Eric, in the end, I think you're right. But, and it would have helped. It would have helped the end. Dany's death at Jon's hand is to me powerful. It's powerful with Drogon coming in, like Eric said. It's powerful, but it means more to me, to the characters as individuals, than it does to their relationship. I don't know. I don't know if this is my take on it. You're listening now. You have a different take. And that's why I love these fandoms. To me, it was not sad because Jon and Dany loved each other and he had to kill her. That is sad. It's inherently sad, but it is the culmination of their journeys. One, Jon's bittersweet at best, hard at best, and the payoff is him riding off to freedom, emotional freedom more than anything. And there's a big cost to what he has to do, and again, he's Frodo with the scars of war and love. But it wasn't necessarily specific for Dany. It was 8 years. And same with Dany. Hers is a tragic tale to me. Anything about her early on, any lessons, any inspirations you took from her are still there. But you should also focus on the lessons that you need to learn from her mistakes. Failure's the greatest teacher. Dany made a lot. People pointed those out during the show. I don't know. Sometimes I think people glossed over them. There's a story being told there. Yeah, I heard some snarky people. Foreshadowing isn't character depth. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. But go back. This is her story. And it's not supposed to have a happy ending. Nothing's guaranteed a happy ending in this series, in the show, in the story. And I think that final moment is powerful for me because these two characters as individuals get to this point, and this is the end of that journey. This is the powerful, fatal, and final lessons that they have to learn. And it wasn't necessarily about their love. But I could be wrong, and without a doubt, the love was supposed to be there. And maybe it did miss on that a little bit. But I love it. It's complicated. I love looking at this stuff a little closer. I love questioning some things and just still trying to find the joy in the show we love. That's what we should do as fans more than be snarky about it, which is why I appreciate Eric's call. Always appreciate his calls, and always appreciate all of your calls. If you have some thoughts on this, what do you feel about that final moment? And would a couple more episodes or a couple more beats of their love made it better for you? Bigger, bolder, more powerful, more painful? Let me know here on Casterly Talk. We're going to take a break. On the other side, let's pour a glass of wine. Talk about CERSEI Lannister. Welcome back to Casterly Talk. Thanks for sticking around after the break. Episode 33 in motion. We got a special guest in studio to talk about one of her favorite characters from the hit podcast, Grace and Alicia Have Lives. It's Grace Hancock. Welcome to Casterly Talk.
Well, thank you for having me. I journeyed from across the hallway, and I'm weary from the travel, but so grateful to be here.
But it's like a Game of Thrones travel. It's quick and to the point, and we're already at our location.
Correct.
We love looking back here at Casterly Talk on all 8 seasons of HBO's Game of Thrones. We're going to start looking more specifically at characters, and this is one of our first little looks. This isn't some big drawn-out report. I want the emotions, I want the feelings of this character, and CERSEI Lannister, or technically Cersei Baratheon, but CERSEI Lannister, she's known far and wide, the queen of the Seven Kingdoms, the first female queen of the Seven Kingdoms, took that at the end of season 6 in a memorable way. Grace, this is without a doubt one of your favorite characters of this show, right?
Absolutely. No, if I had to pick one, she would be my favorite.
Why? What draws you to her initially, and what kept you there?
Initially, what kept me there is obviously Lena Headey. Been a big fan of hers for many, many years. She's a very handsome woman, which is refreshing. She's not like this bombshell Bond girl. Yeah. So as an actor, I'm just like, oh, that's nice. And then she's also just so talented. It's stupid. It's just offensive how talented she is, truly. Like her little pinky finger it should win all the Oscars. I met her once at Coffee Bean and I was like, and that's what I said.
Was this during the Game of Thrones run or before Sarah Connor years?
It was. No, it was in the early, I want to say like season 2 or 3.
Oh, wow.
And I was because she's also kind of my size. She was very short. And I was like, we're looking in the eyes. But I love Cersei because she's strong. She's fearless. She absolutely doesn't care. She likes to go right up to the line and then just very gracefully step right on over it. And I'm into it.
Early on, what were some of the things other than what you're talking about? You probably went in expecting it's Lena Headey, so whether you watched her in 300 or any of the other, like I said, Sarah Connor Chronicles, where she was Sarah Connor, you were probably keyed in already, but what about the character, what early moments in the show made you go, yeah, this is what I love about this character? She kind of holds her own. I mean, she's in a man's world, much like all of us women are. Certainly in her position, obviously it's fictional, but it's, based on kind of medieval, hierarchies of male and female roles. She holds her own. And I like the scene really early on when she calls out her husband and she's like, hey, do we have a chance? And it's just a really fearless moment. And you see a little bit of humanity. And this is did we ever have a chance moment? Yeah. This is, that's perhaps if I had to make a list of top 10 Game of Thrones seasons, I'd put that in top 10. And it's show only. It's not book. And you get a sense from her. And this is the point where Robert goes on his Lyanna Stark and and I love Robert's a complicated character, but I love him in this moment. Mark Addy's so great. But then he asks her, I think he cares for a second, like, how does that make you feel? Expecting a broken wing. Right. And she answers, I feel nothing. Right. And it just kind of, you get a little bit of her humanity. What do you, as an actor yourself, you watch and lean in this scene, just what the choices she makes are so good. Well, yeah, and just the nuance and the idiosyncratic. I mean, her eyeballs are just so, they draw you in and they keep you there. And she's doing so much while physically doing so little, because that's just how great she is. And it's kind of similar to much later on when you see, Emilia Clarke walk away from the wall after her girlfriend gets beheaded. And you're like, that's how a villain is born. And this is kind of a similar, much smaller moment in a way. Not that she hasn't been leading up to it, but it's kind of like the final nail in the final coffin, like this poor woman who's just been abused. And it's just like kind of like that last little flicker when you're wondering if this conversation had gone differently, what could have happened? Yeah, it's an interesting point there in that particular moment. Could have gone different. And you mentioned the word villain, and it's safe to say, in a classic sense, she's a villain in Game of Thrones. But I think very early on, that scene was the one for me, and like a lot of people like yourself, that you started to see her side, and you started to understand what's going on. And even the great King Robert, you start to see the problems with him, and it becomes very real. So while she maintains this villain role, I think over the course of the show, people are absolutely rooting for this character. Well, and I think that's I think we say villain just because we work in entertainment. We're like good guys and bad guys. But I think for me personally, I think that all villains are anti-heroes because every villain doesn't think he's a villain. You know what I mean? Like Kylo Ren thinks that he's right. And that's what makes him great. And that's what makes her great, is that she's like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, Yeah, for my point of view, Father, I'm the only one working hard to keep on your dynasty going, to keep your legacy going. The stuff with her and Charles Dance, Tywin, and his daughter is also some of the more fascinating things. Right. Because I think she is trying to keep up while Tyrion's betrayed them or gone or whatever they feel. And Jaime's, making his own mistakes and captured things that aren't his problem. But you believe her in those moments, but she does make some mistakes. And what is a fan of this character as you're watching her kind of make some mistakes? How did you react to that? The High Sparrow, she empowers the High Sparrow.
Oh my God, I hate that season more than anything in the world.
Where do you think that comes from character point of view?
I mean, dare I say hubris, your favorite word of all time? Yeah. I mean, I think she learns later on in life and later on in the season that she's not completely indestructible. And I think that that's something that comes as a shock. And I think we see that with the High Septim. She's just like totally thinking that she's fine. And then even when she's getting thrown into the dungeon, she's like screaming like, oh my God, you're going to regret that. Blah, blah, blah. And not to say that she doesn't later on.
She does exactly what she says.
Yeah. Which is just like, and everything, like her delivery of everything is just so delicious because you don't see her very often. I think we could probably count on our fingers how many times in all 8 seasons that she raises her voice, that she yelled, that there's a thing that's not this really just graceful, just holding it in, just this smoldering under the surface at all times, which is so great.
That's a really great point. I really hadn't thought of those terms. Yeah, she's not screaming like Robert Baratheon and a lot of these other characters. Baelish doesn't scream to the end, Varys, but for her in a position of power, she doesn't scream a lot. When it happens, it's out of frustration, mostly it's when the armor's off. It's around Tyrion or something like that, based around her children and her life, the things, and she keeps up such a good public face. But yeah, she's cold and calculated.
And even when Joffrey's dying in her arms, like it's not as explosive as one might expect.
It's controlled.
It's super controlled.
Yeah, Cersei has that, and I believe, I think Tywin was just smarter in this weird book sense, just like he's got all this experience, and I don't think she's dumb or making mistakes. I just think she's trying to keep up his legacy, but trying to establish her own, and she's surrounded by, other than Qyburn, just dumb bootlickers. And I think, again, better if another path had opened up, she'd be perhaps the greatest queen and ruler that ever was.
Well, yeah, and it goes to show what a life of abuse leads to. Nothing good.
Nothing good.
No.
Very early on. And as much as I love the character of Tywin and consider him a lot of skills, his undoing, which is what the story highlights, is he's a horrible father. And so naturally that should be what his undoing is. But for Cersei, let's go back to Cersei here. She goes to this moment. One of my other favorite moments is her licking the water off the ground in the jail cell, season 5. Because this is, so she go back to episode 1, the pilot. Cersei is the most beautiful woman in the land. She's the queen. And now here she is, hair gone. Everything about her is gone. She is stripped to the bottom.
Right.
That stands out to me as one of the finest moments. Do you have some other ones from Cersei?
Oh, of favorite moments?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, my very favorite of all time is, season 6, episode 8, I want to say, when she says, I choose violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could just watch that scene every day all day.
Well, we can listen to it here.
Do it.
Order your man to step aside or there will be violence.
Oh, I love it.
I choose violence.
And the mountain goes and kills there. We'll listen to the sounds of brutal murder as we talk. But again, to highlight what you said, and I never slowed down to think of it. She doesn't scream back, I choose violence, I'm going to kill. She just...
No, it's very calculated. She has a super high inner tempo rhythm and a super slow outer tempo rhythm, which is hugely fascinating, the dichotomy of the two.
Right. And Lena Headey makes these choices time and time again as a performer to tell this story, to tell the pain. Again, I think you're right. You're so on her side for a lot of things, but where someone where Dany makes some mistakes and you're on her side, but you're like, come on, get it together, Dany. With Cersei, to me, it just got more and more like, oh no, burn the world down. And then she does at the end of season 6 and takes the best wine sip in the history of anything.
I mean, icon. She's an icon forever.
What did you think when you were watching that moment, season 6, episode 10?
Honestly, the first time I watched it was with you. And I think, if you remember, I was literally screaming and clapping. I was literally like, yes! I was so thrilled because there's nothing better than a slow burn of revenge. That's why the Stieg Larsson series, the Millennium series, it's probably my favorite fiction of all time because it's just the most beautiful slow burn well-deserved revenge, and I hated watching the High. What's his hell? I could just
the High
I can't with that
Jonathan
guy.
Pryce.
Oh my god, my blood was boiling that whole season long. So it's just this wonderful full circle, and it's like you don't mess with Cersei. She said she was going to do it, and she did it. Boom.
So she did it, and she ascends to the throne, and it's a pretty historic moment. In all these years of Westeros, never had a woman on the throne, and here she is. She takes it, and with the best gown in the world.
Oh my god, I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff, but also pays homage to the Lannister name and her father. It's weird. It's all there.
Yeah,
she knows where she came from, but she knows she's done this herself. And then it does start to unravel, and I am actually fascinated because I think you enjoyed her character's end more than the general public, and season 8 gets talked about. I think you and I are on the same page about her end. Yeah, she didn't have it seems she didn't have as much to do in season 8, and I could agree with that. But I also don't. It doesn't matter to me because I love where the character ended up. Tragic. Same. What did you love about that?
I think that a lot of people were like, we wanted a face-off, which 100% I get that.
Sure.
But I also didn't miss that because I felt what could be a more poetic ending than for her to be literally watching physically, literally, emotionally, her world crumbling. It's literally physically crumbling. And then again, with those last moments with her and Jaime underneath, like at the root of the castle, literally, you know, their whole generations of blah, 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 they're there together. And she's freaking out a little bit. And we almost kind of see her in this girl-like, childlike state where she's crying, I don't want to die. Don't let me die. And it's like this really, you're not rooting for her to die even because you just see her be fearful and just show it. It is in what you've described in talking about this character that just brings to me more powerful more powerful feeling to it, I should say, because she is so controlled in those final moments. Like you said, it's not Cersei Lannister, the queen there. It is Cersei. It's like baby Cersei with her brother. Yeah. You know, help me, I'm crying. Like it's heartbreaking. It is. And to me, we were talking earlier in the first half of the show, Dany and Jon and their final moments, to me, weren't about their love. It wasn't about a tragic love moment. It was a separate story of two characters coming to that moment. And in that moment, with Jaime too, but Jaime we'll discuss another time, I'm sure. But it is 8 seasons of the woman who gets off the carriage, the wagon in episode 1, and kiss my fingers, and the veneer's up, everything's up to that moment, and it's that is her story, a tragic story. It's not a happy ending, but at the same time, she's in the arms of the person she loves, as much as weird as that is. Yeah, and I mean, I think that I don't know. I don't see a world where she would want to be taken out by Dany. You know, I think that she might have preferred an ending that was in a way on her own terms. Like it wasn't that she was killed by an enemy. She was with Jaime and proclaims, "I don't want to die." Yeah, that's right. And to counter those, and I don't want, this isn't a season 8 criticism talk or anything, but to counter, everyone has their own opinions and desires for these characters. But that's why I don't feel Cersei, Dany staring at each other in some final fight. That's not what the character deserved to me. Well, yeah, and I get it because it's like, how powerful would that scene have been, just like as an audience member, but also two queens. To my knowledge, neither of the characters are trained in combat. You know what I mean? I didn't really know what people wanted. I was like, and one's on a dragon. Gonna get fried. Yeah, I was like, I don't know what you want, because we saw Dany pick up a sword once in 8 seasons, and I was like, oh shit, okay, and I was super pumped. But clearly, like, these are not women who've been trained with weaponry, so I didn't know what people really wanted. Yeah, and again, it's not to me. It's Cersei doesn't deserve a comeuppance to me, even though as bad as she was at times, and the things she did as bad. Yeah, she's a villain at times, but she didn't deserve being burned by a dragon in some execution ceremony. Right. She deserved those final moments of true love and embracing life at the end. You know, to me, that was more powerful. Right, and it makes it even more poignant that, you know, if Tywin had just shown her just an inkling of warmth, or if her husband had shown her just an inkling of warmth, like, you it's like you in real life when people have these horrible backgrounds, but then can grow up to be wonderful, well-adjusted, happy people. It's like if just one scenario had gone differently, this could have changed.
What I think Tyrion understood that because he's faced, and Jaime too. I think Jaime has his own burdens, but Tyrion especially is a marked character growing up, and everyone has their opinions.
I think he has the most self-awareness.
Most self-awareness, and he's aware of who he is and who she is, and that's why he's more than a few occasions. I think a lot of stuff in season 2 of just like, well, you're this, but at least you love your children, and at least you know, which is what he that builds to her on top of the wall with Missandei and Tyrion giving her one last, I know for the child you're carrying, don't do this. That's powerful too.
Yeah.
But that she couldn't overcome that until the very end. Mm-hmm. And Lena Headey plays it so well.
The best. The
best indeed. Do you have any parting thoughts on Cersei Lannister? Or anytime when you take a sip of wine, do you do one for Cersei?
I mean, let's have a glass of wine later and let's toast to Cersei.
Cersei Lannister. House Lannister. She carried on the legacy. She was historic in her own right. We'll be talking more about the character down the line, but I wanted to get someone else's opinion. You don't want to just hear me talking while we wait for the others to come in studio. This is Grace Hancock, who has the wonderful podcast. Grace and Alicia Have Lives, available here on Anchor. You guys got a lot of cool things going, though. You don't just do a podcast. You got a community forming up around there, right?
I know, we do. It's been a lot of fun. We have our little inner circle going strong. If you support us on Anchor.
What is the Inner Circle?
If you support us on Anchor, basically the Inner Circle is a monthly newsletter that goes out at the end of the month that has all of our bloopers and BTS. If we sometimes we'll shoot an episode, we'll put that in there. We'll announce special announcements and good things come down the pipe early in the Inner Circle, so you guys get first view stuff like that.
And if you were a member last month, you would have got exclusive video of a 2-pound chihuahua in sneakers.
Yeah, we put the little video of Rat when Ken got Rat some little Chuck Taylor sneakers, and me and my mom filmed it. It went, depending on who you are, very well or very badly, but it's very funny.
It's very funny indeed. So support Grace and Alicia Have Lives. Listen to their show every Monday. More things coming to them. Thank you, Grace, for coming in and talking about the greatest villain/hero of all time, Cersei Lannister.
Absolutely.
We are about wrapping up Casterly Talk here. Thanks for listening today, all of you. If you got a thought on Cersei Lannister, I want to hear. Send us a tweet using the hashtag Casterly Talk or call into our show here on Anchor. If you got a Game of Thrones what if, look back at the previous 8 seasons and ask yourself, what if? We talked a little bit, some what ifs of Cersei Lannister. What if she was shown just a little bit more support at certain times in her life? Might have gone a little different. There's those kind of what ifs and the big scenarios, the changes. What happens if so-and-so lives? What does that lead to? We love talking about those. And because we talked about news of the prequel series or the prequel pilot, be at the top of the show, more of that is coming, I'm sure. And we're going to start getting ready and really digging into the different houses and what might be at play during this time period. And also, don't forget, George is still typing out them words. The 6th book is on the way at some point. Can it be 2019? Probably not. Early 2020? Let's hope the old gods and the new make it happen. So that is all for this week. We'll see you next time on Casterly Talk.